The Zodiac Killer, a name that sends chills down the spine of anyone familiar with the case. A shadowy figure who terrorized Northern California in the late 1960s and early 1970s, leaving a trail of blood, cryptic messages, and unanswered questions. To this day, the true identity of the Zodiac remains one of the greatest mysteries in the annals of criminal history. But who was the Zodiac Killer? And how did this faceless monster manage to outwit authorities for decades? Let's unravel this dark and twisted tale.
San Francisco has a killer in its midst.
He had this black hood on, little slits in the eyes.
He goes around killing people by rope, by gun, by knife. And he says, I'm going to call myself Zodiac.
I want you to print this cipher on your front page.
It all began on December 20th, 1968, on a quiet stretch of road in Vallejo, California. High school sweethearts Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were enjoying a simple date night when horror struck. A man approached their car, fired multiple shots, and left them for dead. It was brutal, senseless, and the first act in what would become a series of horrifying murders. 6 months later, on July 4th, 1969, the killer struck again. Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were sitting in their car at Blue Rock Springs Park, just a few miles from the first murder site. A man approached their vehicle and unleashed a hail of bullets. Michael miraculously survived and provided the first description of the attacker, a heavy-set man with short curly hair. But what came next sent shockwaves through the community. On August 1st, 1969, 3 nearly identical letters were sent to local newspapers: the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. Each letter contained a cryptic message, a piece of a 408-symbol cipher, and a chilling admission: "I like killing people because it is so much fun." The writer demanded the letters be published on the front page, threatening more violence if his instructions were ignored. The police were baffled. Who was this killer who craved attention, taunted the authorities, and enjoyed playing games with the media? It didn't take long for the first cipher to be cracked by a couple, Donald and Betty Harden. But the message it revealed only deepened the mystery. The killer claimed to be collecting slaves for the afterlife and expressed his love for murder. There was no name, no clue to his identity, only his chilling moniker, the Zodiac. On September 27, 1969, the Zodiac Killer took his game to a new level. At Lake Berryessa, he attacked college students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard as they picnicked by the shore. Wearing a hooded costume adorned with his now infamous cross-circle symbol, the Zodiac tied them up before brutally stabbing them. Brian survived the ordeal, but Cecilia succumbed to her injuries. The killer then called the police from a payphone, calmly confessing to the attack and taking credit for his previous crimes. The Zodiac's most audacious act came on October 11, 1969, in the heart of San Francisco. He hailed a cab and shot the driver, Paul Stein, in the head. This time, he left behind crucial evidence: a bloody fingerprint, eyewitness accounts, and even a piece of Stein's shirt, which he mailed to the press to prove his identity. But despite this, the Zodiac once again slipped through the cracks. Over the next few years, the Zodiac continued to taunt authorities with letters, ciphers, and even greeting cards. He claimed responsibility for up to 37 murders, though investigators could only confirm 7. The letters grew more bizarre, referencing movies, literature, and astrology. But who was the man behind the mask? Over the decades, numerous suspects have been scrutinized. Arthur Lee Allen, a schoolteacher with a dark past, was the prime suspect for years. Others pointed to Richard Gaikowski, a journalist with a peculiar obsession with the case. Recently, amateur sleuths and forensic experts have even suggested DNA evidence might hold the key. Yet, despite countless investigations and theories, no one has ever been definitively identified as the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror officially ended in the early 1970s, but his legend has endured. His cryptograms remain partially unsolved, his motives unclear, and his identity a mystery. Was he a cunning mastermind, or just a deranged individual who got lucky? The truth remains locked in the shadows, leaving us with only questions. As the decades pass, the Zodiac Killer continues to haunt us, not just as a monster, but as a reminder of the darkness lurking in the human psyche. Will we ever uncover the truth, or will the Zodiac remain a phantom forever?